All right, welcome back, True Seeker. If you want to get in on the discussion, I did drop a link in the live chat, and I'll drop it one more time so it's even easier to see. But if you'd like to be a part of the stream, open invitation. I put up the thumbnail, the Bible verse, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge," and I'm going to get to why that is. But I want to start here with alcohol. Again, we have a good member in the community. He came out and pounded pavement with us in New York. And if you talk to him, he would admittedly tell you that he has a little bit of a drinking problem. And some nights he drinks a lot, and then he's just calling and ranting to me about all of his sorrows. But he reminds me that alcohol is a depressant. Now, if you look at it, that's what it's categorized as, a depressant. Because when he's drinking and he calls me, he's often very depressed, and he's done things in his past that he feels ashamed of, and the same things come out of him every time he's drinking too much. And I feel bad for him every time. And I say, listen, those are things you did in your past, and you know it was wrong, but you haven't done it for a long time, and you can't dwell on the past. You can only improve on it. But he's a very bright guy. He just every now and then he gets on the bottle and he just gets so low about life. And the other thing that always comes up is that he always says he wants to kill himself. And there's a lot of people that feel that way in this world for all kinds of reasons. But I just honestly wish him and so many other people would just put the bottle away. And again, he's a tough guy. He'll go on. I don't think he's really ever going to kill himself. But it's just like alcohol. It just brings up all of his worst emotions, like all of his worst thoughts. It brings back, yeah. I mean, for anyone who drinks, I mean, you know how it can be. Alcohol can be fun, and then at other times it's not. And it can be like that with a lot of substances too. Sometimes smoking weed, it's a good time, and then other times you smoke weed and you got all the wrong thoughts going on. But what I wanted to remind about is alcohol and the way alcohol was legalized. Well, first it was taken away and then it was given back. And remember, it's not an accident that the government ended prohibition at the end of 33 in the midst of the Great Depression. Because they know people will drown their sorrows. They'll drink it to temporarily ease their pains. It's the same reason that pretty much everyone does any kind of drug. Well, sometimes they'll just want to feel good and have fun, but a lot of people use drugs to escape mental pain, sometimes physical pain too. But the reason again, we know the way our federal government operates. Everything they do is by a code. And of course, in gematria, alcohol equals 33. And again, so does sugar. And sugar is the thing that makes alcohol. And we know 33 is not an arbitrary number either. People in person equal 33. In our Western society, a lot of us are raised Christian and we learn the story of Jesus. And even though it doesn't say it anywhere in the Bible, the common belief is he was crucified at 33. And go figure, the word Bible also equates to 33. And alcohol is associated with Jesus. He turned water into wine. You go to church on Sunday, the only day of the week that equals 33. They give you wine and they tell you it's Jesus' blood and you should drink it and eat his body. If you're a kid, they give you grape juice. But yeah, again, they gave us this thing by the numbers at a time when people were really down and out. And that's not something to lose track of. It was a control mechanism for the populace. And I'm losing it in my mind right now. There's a historian who has a ton of documentaries. God, I wish I could think of his name right now. But he has a great one on what this country looked like when Prohibition ended. How many people were just became total drunkards, and the destruction of families. Again, just how connected that 33 number is to humans. The word family is 33, like people in person. And remember, this whole obsession with 33 through Masonry, remember, Masonry equals 33, like secrecy equals 33, like order equals 33, like federal equals 33, Again, like alcohol's 33, like the feds gave you alcohol in 33. The whole obsession with 33 is the 33 bones in the human vertebrae. The Masons study Kundalini, and Kundalini is about spiritual ascension up the 33 bones of the human vertebrae. And when it reaches that top, that's also known as Christ consciousness, going with the whole Jesus being crucified at 33 thing. But yeah, I would encourage anybody who abuses any kind of substance to figure out a way to quit, including the gentleman who, when he sees this video, is going to know that I'm talking about him. And understand, I'm not mad at you. You know, if you want to continue to get drunk and call me, I'll continue to pick up the phone and talk to you. But it's just like, I don't know why you do it to yourself. It's like you're torturing yourself. So again, if you have some kind of vice that you're abusive with, and you know it's not the best thing, again, figure out a way to overcome it. And it can be hard. Addiction's a real thing. I mean, they had to keep liquor stores open during the pandemic when they closed everything else down, because there's some people that are so addicted to alcohol that if they don't get it, they'll die. And I mean, it's crazy. You know, my dad's youngest brother, we haven't heard from him for years. You know, you try to help him out, but he didn't want to help himself. He just, just wake up, just getting drunk as soon as he wakes up every day, living on disability, on the bottle all day, doesn't work, just disability check, figure out a way to scrounge up some money to get alcohol, just drunk all day. And sadly, he's vanished from the face of the earth. And I mean, he's living in Portland, rough spot to be, a lot of crazy stuff going on in Portland. But yeah, just alcohol. It was literally given to us to destroy us. Again, you have to realize, in the time of the Great Depression, that's when they really wanted to. Again, that's really the Great Depression took a lot of families off agricultural land, or they had a family unit. They weren't even really going to slave school. They were growing up in the family. They were getting raised in the family, the knowledge of the family getting passed down, learning the skills, learning how to build the farmhouse, work the land. But because of the Depression, a lot of people just down and out had to move to the city, had to work in the factory for a slave wage, send the children to the school systems that are getting put up everywhere. All of these things, that then since the 1900s come around in the age of industry, a lot of the things that we're now experiencing, the society the way we know it, it happened really, really fast when you look at it. 1,000 years before that, most people were agricultural, had community, family, real skills, real knowledge, the ability to build things. And you could say that alcohol time forward, it's turned it into what it now is, where people have paper skills, that what they learned in books. And, for most of us, it's enough skills to go work a simple job like a cash register. And again, that's where a lot of American skill set is at, unfortunately. And that's not by design, or that's not by accident. It is by design. So, yeah, again, and having knowledge, it can be the motivation to help you see that, like, you're being used and abused by a game. And if you realize we are living in a game where games are being played with our lives, you want to make yourself a better player. And a better player is someone that's getting over their vices and not abusing things like alcohol. If you got some kind of pain, there's other ways to deal with it. Like, put all that pain into something productive, like create something. You use your all that emotion to create something positive. And I mean, essentially that's what it was for me in 2013. I was just so fed up. It was 12 years of trying to wake people up and get nothing but ridicule for it. People just talking endless shit. And I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to elevate my knowledge beyond where it is. I mean, I could have gone a different way. I could have been like, F the world, where's the bottle at? I mean, I like to drink too, but I don't really drink, because I know all of the worst moments I've had in life have been when I had too much of that stuff in my system. Like, If I had to go back and look at the top 10 things that I regret the most, I know at least 9 of those 10 things had to do with alcohol. So I haven't been drinking very much at all since my early 20s. I realized back then that I need to stay away from this whole alcohol thing. And I started to realize, and my dad comes from a family of alcoholics. He's the only one that doesn't really drink. And you know what? My mom's side of the family, you could say that her whole side of the family is a bunch of alcoholics too, but they're more productive alcoholics than my dad's side. My dad's side's got some serious problems. My mom's side, it's like her oldest sister. She never. I mean, like when you go to like a frat party and somebody's got they got like 2/5 duct tape to their wrist and they're not going to get them unduct taped by their frat mates until they finish both fists. My mom's oldest sister, like literally, I'm pretty sure she even went to work and did her job her whole life with a bottle of tequila in her hand. I mean, and she's still going. We'll see how long she lasts for, but I'm amazed at some of the way these people abuse their bodies and they're still ticking. Anyway, alcohol. It's the weekend. I know this is what a lot of people do. They're drinking heavy. And again, listen, if you're out there and a young person and you're just going out and you're drinking and having a little fun, I mean, I will say you got to live, but hey, if you're a young person, you realize that like alcohol is bringing problems into your life and you're doing things that are regrettable, you might want to ease up. And that's the thing too. Our culture teaches people at a young age that, man, you should be going out and getting wasted at least on Friday and Saturday night. You should be drinking until you're puking. And really, you shouldn't be doing that. I mean, we all know how it is when we're hungover. I mean, it feels like we died. And that's because alcohol takes a toll on the body. There's only a handful of things I remember that came out of professors' mouths when I was in college, and I think it was a psychology class actually where it was said, but the professor made a real point to us about how out of all the drugs that exist in the world, the one that actually does the most damage to the body is alcohol. Alcohol does the most damage. It's literally damaging everything in your body. It's aging it. It's wearing out your useful life more quickly. And I think about all my buddies that I used to drink with in my early 20s, and they didn't stop drinking heavy. They all lost their hair at a young age too. And I just think I'm pretty sure that's because you guys were all drinking too much. I think that causes some hair loss in all you guys. You guys are just going way too hard. So yeah, I just encourage you to realize, again, the knowledge. It'll show you the way the game's being played and the way we're being manipulated. And if you're aware of that, it might motivate you to get played less by the game. So, again, alcohol has that gematria value of 33 like sugar. And I mean, that's another thing too. Sugar, just everywhere. It's overabundant in all the processed food. All this obesity is because mostly people are eating so much processed food that's full of so much excess sugar. I mean, you might not be drinking, but you're pounding Skittles and God knows what, and you're waking up and eating Pop-Tarts and pancakes with syrup and peanut butter with a whole bunch of extra sugar. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I like all those things too, but you got to respect yourself and you got to realize, like, this isn't what our ancestors eat. There wasn't just bags of candy everywhere. And, they used to go out on the land and they used to pick some fruits and vegetables right out of their yard. They might have to smack the head off the chicken every now and then, but they weren't getting all this prepackaged stuff with all this crap in it that just it shouldn't be there. And the reason it has to be there is because that's the only way this stuff has a shelf life. They either got to put a ton of sugar in it or a ton of salt as a preservative. So Open Up has an observation. Thank you, Open Up. Open Up always with the generosity and the wisdom. He says, alcohol originates from the word al-kul in Arabic, meaning body-eating spirit. That's interesting. And we refer to alcohol as spirits, don't we? So, there's some relationship with all this, just the hidden things in language. I didn't know this one. Al-kul, body-eating spirit. And that's what it does. It literally eats up your body. It ages your skin, everything. Everything. Yeah, and reading your second sentence, there you go. Yeah, I mean, you went on to say exactly what it made me think of just reading your first sentence. Also, liquor and alcohol are often known as wine and spirits. Now, maybe you're making a connection there with wine that I'm overlooking. Maybe you see something in the word wine that I'm overlooking. I understand the spirits part, but I'm like, is there something about wine? for my man calling me at night, you kind of get whiny, don't you? You kind of get a little bit whiny. I don't want to give him a hard time though. But no, I just say it in a kidding way, but he does kind of start whining about his past. And rightfully so. I mean, he did some regrettable things, but again, I mean, just realize that every time you're on the bottle, you're in your past, and you're hating yourself for the things you did. And then when you're not that, you're doing well. You're you're acing the exam, you're achieving in your career. He's doing well as the bachelor right now with the ladies, but then just some nights my man gets on the bottle and he just wants to all be over with. So yeah. And to transition to the next thing, what I put up for the thumbnail, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. I mean, I don't even know if I need to say anything about that. But by the way, I'm going to drop the link again. If anybody wants to get in here and add to the conversation at any point, you're welcome to. I'll drop the link one more time. Today I went on somebody's live stream, open panel stream, and I was talking about, the types of things that I talk about. And then this guy came on and he's like, all this stuff you're talking about, all these rabbit holes. He's like, what's real is actually going out and helping people. And I respect that. I totally get that. It does feel good to go out and help people. And then what he got into is how he's working with the Red Cross, and he's been delivering disaster relief for the Red Cross to people who got hit by the hurricane. And at first I was going to let it slide, but then he started promoting the Red Cross. And then I just thought about really the irony of it, right? I'm not mad that he's out helping people. I think that's great. And again, when I was younger, I quit a well-paying job to work in a group home and volunteer at a teen homeless shelter. And I felt really good about myself, even though I made a dirt wage for it. It wasn't about the wage. It was about doing something that felt like I was making the world a better place. And again, I mean, I would encourage everybody to do something like that in their life, whether it be some kind of volunteer work or even if you have some great career, but it doesn't satisfy you and you feel bad as a human being. That's what was going on with me. I was in my early 20s out of college. I was working in the booming real estate industry before it fell apart in 2007-ish, 2008-ish, before the big collapse. And it paid really well what I was doing, but I just didn't feel good about myself. I was I was working in the appraisal industry and essentially helping falsify the values of homes so people could refinance, or people from California could come up and overpay for a house in the Pacific Northwest by $200,000 because they don't know what a home's worth up in Portland area. They're like, oh, these homes are cheap. It's like, actually, it should be a lot cheaper, but here, let me help change the appraisal value so that you can overpay for the house. And understand, this is what everybody was doing in the industry. So that's how I justified it. That's how my boss would justify me. He's like, Zach, if it's not you doing it, trust me, there's 1,000 other people out here that are going to do it. And he's like, you should do it because you're really good at it. So no, I did that for a while, and I felt like a criminal. And I thought, well, what I need to do is go back and redeem my soul. So I'm going to work for minimum wage at the group home, and I'm going to help out at the teen homeless shelter. And then that's what I did while I went back to school. And then I decided to work in a school district and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you guys have all heard this story before. But anyhow, what annoyed me, though, was how this guy is dismissive of what I'm talking about and saying we just need to go out and help and volunteer, which I do like. But then I tried to explain to him. I tried to say, okay, listen, I get where you're coming from. But I said, what you don't understand is that storm that you're helping out at, the reason these storms really are still happening is because people don't have enough knowledge to understand what needs to be done at this day and age, because that's not Mother Nature. That is the work of the people that rule over this nation. He kind of gaffed at it. So then I laid out just as quickly as I could exactly what I just talked about with the tearing down of the Tropicana Hotel to make room for the athletics stadium on the same day the storm tears the roof off Tropicana Field. And again, how Tropicana the brand was established in 1947, the same year the military had the first hurricane experiment. So I'm laying all this stuff out. And then he's like, dude, don't you just know it was a cloth roof? I mean, what do you expect to happen? And I'm like, I'm like, no, the point I'm trying to make is just like how they purposefully demolished the Tropicana Hotel to make room for a baseball stadium, has to do with how this storm is a purposeful destruction, and it even targets the Tropicana field. And they got Anderson Cooper in Bradenton, Florida all night, where Tropicana's the company is located at. I said, this is all ritualism. And until we have the knowledge to understand what's going on so that enough people can become aware so that we can stop it, more and more people are going to have to keep taking tax money and donation money from the Red Cross to help out people who just got their livelihoods destroyed by weather warfare. And then he was like, these rabbit holes. I was just like, see, I mean, in a way, the guy's trying to be nice and helpful, but at the same time, he's not smart. It's just, so again, this is why where the quote comes from. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Like this guy's going to end up getting his house washed away, and he's still not going to get it. So hold on, we got our friend Jay in the room, and he wants to hop on. What's up, Jay?
Figured out how to point since I was literally just talking about this shit earlier on my channel. I uploaded up a video basically talking about dietitians because I know you were talking about the health stuff before you went into the hurricane shit. And that's something that's also that I've also just seen it just these big waves of just dietitians that are clearly being paid by these companies to justify still eating at these fucking companies. Like you got these people like Abby Sharp and all the other people that are like, what a dietitian eats at McDonald's. What a dietitian eats at Burger King. What a dietitian eats at KFC. And you know, these people are just being paid to say this bullshit because actual dietitians or people who actually care about health will teach you to make these foods at home, better quality, not still go out and support these companies. It should enrage people that you can go to the same you can go to the same restaurant, buy the same food item in another country, and the ingredients list will be cut in half. Then you come back here and it's like all this unnecessary bullshit added to it. Kellogg's, the same company, it'll give you fucking, not to say that you should be eating Kellogg's anyway, you shouldn't. But at the very least, it wouldn't even be as bad if you go to another country. But they just you come here, you just see how just all this unnecessary crap. The mini fry that you come from. I had somebody from the UK telling me the mini fry in fucking McDonald's is the regular fry over there. It's just like, but see, that's the fucking problem. And these politicians are never gonna get up on stage and talk about this. They're never gonna get up on stage and talk about why so many people are sick and unhealthy in the first place. Shit, Donald Trump promotes McDonald's. He talks about how many times he eat McDonald's a day, and it just again, it's all bullshit. It's just all bullshit. You literally have in my video, I was showing how this dietitian was literally just straight up attacking another YouTuber because she was talking about how she has removed all processed foods from her diet, ultra processed. Those that want to play those semantics, technically it's processed because you cook the meat. Obviously, retard. That's not what the fuck I mean. I mean shit that's not made industrially in a fucking lab. But she doesn't eat. She was talking about how she doesn't eat Oreos anymore after being addicted to them. And then this other TikToker reviewed this video and just was just literally saying, stop this bullshit. You can eat whatever you want. There's no such thing as good or bad foods. You're promoting eating disorders. You don't have a good relationship with food. You can have Oreos. There's room for all kinds of food. And I'm just like, this is the bullshit that needs to stop. This is the stuff that these dietitians, right? Which it means nothing. Then she was like, oh, you have no qualifications. You're just a random YouTuber peddling health advice, but you don't have any qualifications. When you eat, Zach, have you ever felt good after eating a bunch of Oreos?
Of course not. No,
I've never felt good after eating a bunch of Oreos. Anytime you ate Oreos, let me ask you another question. Anytime you ate Oreos, have you just been
hold
able
on,
to
real
eat
quick.
one?
Just to pause
Yeah,
real quick
go
about
ahead.
Oreos. If people don't know, the Oreos have the Templar symbolism all over them too. Speaking of sugar and alcohol, and these people who work by this code, and I was trying to tell that dude to volunteer for the Red Cross. I said, just so you know, the Red Cross is the Templars too. That's military order. Those are the original bankers. They're the same people profiting off all this scam. But anyway, to go
Exactly.
back to what you're saying about
But no,
Oreos.
I was just gonna say, have you ever been able? Because these people are like, oh, eat it in moderation. Have you ever just been able to eat 2 Oreos and call it a day?
Actually, I was super disciplined when I was a kid.
You
I'll
were?
tell you the last time I ate
Okay.
Oreos was probably about 6th grade. And every now and then, because I did like Oreos when I was a kid, but I knew that we'd only get them every so often, so I wanted them to
Yeah.
last. See,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
your parents do not spoil you, you might learn how to have discipline and things. But this is what I do
yeah.
right
That's
now.
true.
I'd only have 3 Oreos at a time. I'd pour a little glass of milk and I'd dunk my 3 Oreos and enjoy them for so long, and no more than 3 at a time. So, but I haven't eaten Oreos since I was probably about 10 years old.
That's man. Every time my mom asked me to get her Oreos, man, I'll get the big pack, and she will go through that shit in less than 2 days.
That's how people
And
are. That's how my mom
exactly,
is. If my mom gets her hand on a bag of potato chips, the whole thing's going to go down that night. It doesn't matter if the party size. She's going through the whole bag,
exactly,
and then she's going to hide it. She's going to hide it behind the couch. I haven't had any
exactly.
snacks. That's what she's going to say.
She's gonna be walking up in the middle of the night eating this, and I'm not doing this to talk shit about people that do this. The point that I'm making is that for a lot of the people, these unless you like are able to really be good at training yourself not to do this shit, it's gonna be extremely hard to not. Nobody actually, a very small amount of people. I've never known anybody that actually eats the serving sizes of a box of cheeses, fucking chips, Doritos, all this stuff. I've never met anybody that actually does that in my whole life. I've met a
You're
lot of
saying you
people.
haven't met anybody that eats the whole box?
No, no, I've never met anybody that eats the actual serving size.
Oh yeah, no. A lot of people will just eat the whole
Yeah,
box.
they eat the whole bite, and then they want another bag, and then they eat another bag. I've never been able to do that either. I've never been able to eat the serving size either. So I'm like, the serving size is irrelevant. They can tell you, oh yeah, you just got to eat this amount, but again, nobody does that. These things are not built. It's disingenuous because these things are not made. They're putting all this stuff in it they're putting all this stuff in it. They're putting in it because they're specifically making sure it will be addictive. And I already know the bookie about the show.
This book right here tells you how much science and engineering is in the food to make you keep eating it.
Exactly. And instead of focusing on that, instead of acknowledging that there is a real agenda to keep us addicted and fat, and by extension we end up being fat, sick, and unhealthy, these dietitians are like, no, it's okay, you can do it, you can do it. Instead of focusing on quality, instead of actually focusing on having a real healthy relationship with food. That isn't it? It's crazy that someone like me or someone like the YouTuber that I was defending in this video, who chooses to just not eat food, who acknowledges and takes serious, okay, this food is gonna make me feel sick after eating it. This food is gonna make me, quote unquote food, right? This is gonna make me break out after eating it. This is gonna make my heart burn. This is gonna keep me up at night because it's gonna have me having acid reflux, literally by the having the food coming up into my mouth. So I'm just not gonna eat it. I don't feel like dealing with the breakouts. I don't feel like dealing with the digestive issues. And to have somebody look at you or look at somebody like that and be like, you have an eating disorder. You don't have a good relationship with food because you're making your diet restrictive. Like, no. If something makes you feel like shit after eating it, it should not be in your body. And
Absolutely.
there was never a legitimate justification to put it in your body. But people will try to make these justifications like, oh, it's about having a healthy relationship because they're trying to justify their addiction. They're trying to justify still being addicted to these drugs. They're like, oh, it's a healthy. You need to have a good relationship with food. Moderation is key. Balance is key. We're not talking about oranges or fucking apples or eggs or beef or something like that. We're not talking about things that are real food and not bullshit. We're talking about Oreos, Skittles, cereal, Pop Tarts, things that are literally just drugs. They don't give you any nutritional value. And then people are the other dietitian was like, oh well, this food just is a nutrient dense. I'm like, no, this food also robs your body of nutrients. It depletes your body of vitamin C, antioxidants, minerals, selenium, magnesium, zinc, all these things that you need for your body to perform its function is the best. It destroys your digestive system. It completely ruins the proper amount of the proper ratios of different gut bacteria. It just causes all these different things. I have a digestive system that would never be the same. That all stemmed from a sugar addiction that gave me a kidney stone. I wasn't drinking enough water, eating all this sugary shit. I ended up in the hospital at 20 years old. Everybody think I'm just, oh, you just a saint, blah blah blah, because I say what I say now, but people don't understand. I was worse. I was probably worse than anybody in the fucking chat. At fucking 20 years old, I was literally, I could literally go through a box of Pop Tarts in one day. In one day, it literally one day, I would just not be able to stop. And I could go through like 5 cookies at one time, and it just became more and more and more because it is a drug. You end up needing more and more sugar to sustain yourself, or to fix that craving, just like heroin, just like crack, just like all this shit, just like all these things that just again overstimulate your dopamine. These hyper palatable ass foods. But if I eat an orange, I'm always gonna eat no more than 2 to 3 oranges because these foods are not drugs. I'm never gonna keep needing more and more of them because they're again, I'm not addicted to this. I'm not. They're not designed to get me addictive, and it might not be the exact natural wild oranges that grew in the wild, but there still hasn't been anything. They haven't been fucked with and had all this stuff added into it to make sure that I become addicted to it. And that's what I mean. Even if you want to be technical about it, being cultivated and shit like that. But again, it just we have a culture of people that are holding us. The culture is keeping these a whole bunch of people just attached to this shit. Like I was doing another. I had another video where that I uploaded right before that one where the YouTuber Santa Cruz Medicinals, he goes around literally paying people $100 to not drink soda and not buy cereal. And a lot of the people are like, well, you know what? I'm gonna pass on $100 because I like soda. he's like he's like asking the people. He's like, you don't care about the health consequences. He's like, one dude was like, yeah, I go through almost a whole pack of this in one day. I'm like, what the fuck? And he asked the dude, I'm like, well, you don't worry about any health consequences that may come in the future. He's like, nah, man, I like the soda. He just walks off. Just this is where people are now.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
is
yeah, every time I go to the
they're
grocery
addicted.
store, every time I go to the grocery store, I see carts full of soda and chips. And I mean, I could understand it more 20 years ago, but as expensive as that stuff is now, I feel like I was
Exactly.
thinking I was going to see more people like purging this from their diet, but that's all I see in people's grocery carts, just soda and chips. I'm like, is this all people eat?
Yeah, it's just like you would think that if somebody's offering you $100 to put the soda down, that you'd be like
That's
that would be
addiction,
enough
though.
incentive. But the
It's
addiction
addiction.
is so strong.
It
Is
is.
it's so strong. They're like, oh no, they're like, no, I don't need $100. And this is why these foods should come with a warning label because, like cigarettes does, which was also something that was promoted as harmless before they came out and said, oh, it causes cancer, but it's not what they did for the first for when they first came out with it. But this is why these foods should come with a warning label and they should be treated as drugs because only somebody that is addicted to something would do some shit like that, would turn down $100, $100 to not fuck to that somebody's paying you to not put this shit in your cart. Only somebody that was addicted would keep eating something that they know is bad for them. That's why these foods should come with the warning label because that's the mindset that puts you in. So even when you have the knowledge, you say that my people fell for lack of knowledge, but honestly, it's to the point where even with the knowledge, people don't care because the culture has just been so fucked up. Niggas know better now, but
They don't
again, it
know.
doesn't matter.
No, they're definitely some. If they had better knowledge, they would understand why they should not be consuming these products. They have a little awareness, but they haven't heard it from the authoritative sources. I mean, you start talking to the average person,
Yeah,
and be
that
like,
is true. That is true.
if you tell them
That's a
what they'd say
component.
to you is they'd say, "No, they would put a warning label on here if
Yeah,
it was that
exactly.
bad."
They're
That's what
waiting
they'd
for
be
them to
telling you.
do it. They're waiting exactly. Same thing with
What
cigarettes.
most Americans don't know. See, I was having this debate when I was probably younger than you when I was having this debate with one of my college professors. They were banning all kinds of food in Europe that are
Yeah.
legal over here. All kinds of
All right.
ingredients that are in our food were getting banned in Europe back around the time I was probably about 20 years old. Early 2000s, they were banning all this stuff. And my professor was arguing that it's all nonsense what they're doing over there and they're going too
All
far
right.
and these things are safe. And he was getting mad because I'd question him. I'd say, well, how do you know these things are so safe if they've only been around for so long? I thought usually it takes
Exactly.
you have to observe over a period of time to see what the consequences are in society. Well, I mean,
Exactly.
the reality is over in Europe where they don't have like all these super addictive things that are banned, uh, their population is a lot healthier. That their obesity rate is
Yeah.
very minimal compared to what it is in the U.S. Again, people we have been tricked. We are eating
Yeah.
ingredients that have made us addicts of things we should not be eating that are creating. That's why it's just maddening. And then every year that
Right.
on these same disease-ridden products, essentially, now it's that time of year for the pink ribbon to raise awareness for breast cancer.
Exactly, man. I hate that shit.
It's like these companies are a joke, man.
The same companies that poison you doing the cancer awareness month. It's like, bitch, you causing the cancer. Like, what the fuck?
They know.
Like,
They
I
know
just
they
hate
are.
this shit. We got people that the breast cancer awareness month, but like, what we should be doing instead of putting up some, and that's what I also hate too. I hate how we just accept this shit and then we try to make it look all cute, like, oh, this is breast cancer awareness month, so let's put up a pink little ribbon. That's part of the program to get us to just accept all this stuff. Oh, it's just a part of life. Let's make it look, more tolerable. Let's put this pink ribbon on it to make it look good. No, what should be happening in honor of breast cancer is boycotting all of the companies that have products that have been linked to any type of cancer. That's what we should be doing for prostate cancer awareness, for colon cancer awareness, for this cancer awareness. It's not a fucking, again, people right now in the US have a 50% chance of developing cancer in their lifetime. Cancer rates have never been that high before. They have never been this high before. Never. There is a
Just younger
growing,
and younger. Just younger and
yeah,
younger.
yeah. Then there's a growing
Sweet
population
lady
of
works in a
younger
medical
people.
place. A girl there that's in her mid-20s just had her breast cut off for breast cancer. She's not. I think she's 25 years old, 24, 25. I mean, like, really? Like, I never heard of that 20 years ago, but now it's becoming pretty common.
I know people that's dying from colon cancer 25 years old.
Coworkers who's 31 just had to get a nut chopped off.
Yeah.
31.
Yeah.
And another coworker that's like a little bit older than me, also just going through I forget what kind of cancer they had, going through some kind of cancer battle. 3 people that work in the medical industry in her own little workplace. She doesn't work in a big workplace. 3 people, all relatively young, just all having cancer battles right now, and it's just like, I mean, it's crazy. And again, that pokey doke thing, I guarantee you that had played a part.
Yeah. And that's just my problem with all these people that they put out in the mainstream to make it seem like we're the hypochondriacs. Oh, it's no big deal. And like you said, like you talked about with those other countries where everything is, where a lot of more stuff is banned. Notice that again, people talk about free healthcare over here in the U.S., but again, we put such a big burden on the healthcare system that other countries don't necessarily put on their healthcare system, which is why it's easier to do stuff like that. But over here, we don't even address it. We don't even try to do anything. We don't try to ban. We don't try to be conscious of anything. The portion sizes are different. It's ridiculously, laughably, like, just negligent. But then these same people are like, oh yeah, legal, free healthcare, do this, do that, and I'm like, what about why do we have this in the food? Why do we have this in the water, this in the air supply? And again, we have this massive influx of just people that are just propped up through social media, these doctors, and they're just making it seem like, oh, it's no big deal. You can have these foods in moderation. And these be the same people that'll be like, oh, I'm going out to vote for this person because they got free healthcare and blah blah blah, and I'm against pollution, but yet they're shaming you, literally shaming people and making them seem like they're mentally ill for choosing not to support companies that not only pollute our bodies and our temple, which you only get one of, but also the world. When these companies produce these foods, it causes a lot of production to the world. A lot of pesticides getting sprayed on shit, which we also only get one of. We only get one planet to live on, and then they're going out looking for a new planet as pesticides continue to be sprayed and on the goddamn crops, and all this shit, all this habitat fucking destruction that's happening with these animals and all this shit. We're driving so many species to the brink of extinction. If you didn't notice, Zach, the bumblebee population in the U.S. is almost completely extinct. It's decreased by 90% since the beginning of this century.
Well, trust me, I know, because I used to get stung by bees all the time when I was a little kid because they were everywhere.
Yeah, and they're not even around. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
the only thing we got out here now are wasps. I don't want to do anything to the wasps, even though I can't stand them. I'm like, well, they're the closest thing. I guess I just let them live all over the house. So,
and one of the biggest reasons for that is pesticide exposure.
Yeah,
and we need that. We need them. We need the bees for a lot of environmental
pollination.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we exactly. We
they're
like
part of the
if the
natural
bees go,
cycle.
we go. Like, and it's just like nobody's doing anything about that. Nobody cares. Like, but and these people are like they're acting like they're dietitians. They're acting like they're promoters of health. But again, they're just promoting more unhealthiness. They're making it
Well,
seem like we're the
that's
ones that don't
exactly
have a
what I
good
said when they
relationship
did the
with food.
lockdowns over the 99.9% survival illness. I said, "See,
Yeah,
this is such a joke that anybody could possibly think that the US federal government cares about your
right.
health." I mean, it's just a joke.
Exactly.
They subsidize sugar and corn syrup. That's what they spend the majority of the
Yeah.
agriculture money on. They subsidize things that we don't need that kill us and make us full of disease and illness. Now they want to tell you that you need a mandatory jab from the most sued companies in the history of the world for wrongful death
Over a
regulations.
99% survivable. Fucking,
See,
it's
again,
just a joke, man.
another book that I should go grab back from there is The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, because the problem is, see, somebody will walk through and they'll say, well, what do these two guys know? They're not doctors.
Exactly.
And here's the reality. Well, what's the doctor know? Did the doctor not go through school and learn the Rockefeller School of Medicine textbook and just goes out and does the same thing where they know nothing about nothing, but they'll give you some drugs? Oh, here, we'll try these drugs out. I mean, it's just maddening. It's like when my hearing disappeared in my right ear, and it's been ringing ever since, what was it, January 2006. My ear's been ringing
And my shit
nonstop.
ring too.
I don't know what started it, but it's never stopped since then. And I've noticed now on TV, they're always advertising stuff for tinnitus. So whatever it is becoming more common. I think I was
Yep.
one of the early susceptible people to whatever it is. I don't know if it's cell phone signals or earbuds or what it was, but my ear's been ringing for a long time. But I just remember when it happened to me, I hate going to the doctor's office, but I went to the doctor's office to see if they could look and figure out what was going on. And it's annoying how much they bill you. But I didn't even
Right.
see a doctor that day. I saw a physician's assistant, and she goes, have you had a cold anytime lately? I said, well, I had one maybe like 6 months ago. She goes, oh, I bet it's that. I was like, really? From a cold from 6 months ago? She goes, yeah, it's probably just that. And I was like, and then you get home and you see the bill for that. I was like,
Exactly. They just
she said,
that's why. Yeah.
yeah,
When
she
that was
said, if
happening,
it's
when I
still
was having my
ringing.
stomach problems, they were like, they would just tell me bullshit. This is the
Well,
same
hold on, no, I
conventional
haven't gotten to
bullshit.
the point
It's like,
yet. She said, if it's still ringing in 4 days, come back. So I come back, and this time an actual doctor sees me and he goes, man, it's too bad you didn't come in the first 24 hours because we have something experimental for this. It was an experimental drug, but he said it's very effective if you catch it in the first 24 hours. I said, well, I came in the day it happened, and the lady told me she thought it was from my cold 6 months ago, which didn't make any sense to me. And she said, come back in 4 days. He's like, oh, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, here, let's take your blood. So he's like, yeah, because then they were just trying to like scare me. Like,
yeah,
people who have the ear, ring in my ear can have this. Man, I couldn't believe how much blood was in my body. Just coming in, just doing a battery of tests for like a whole week. No answers, no conclusions, just a whole bunch of bills. I was like, look at our medical process. This is a joke. This cost me a
right.
fortune. They have no
Exactly.
explanation for anything. They tried to scare the shit out of me. They still wanted me to come back in, but I just said enough. I'm not coming back in for any. I mean, this is a waste of my time, money, and everything. Our medical system's a joke. And I also,
Exactly.
they're so quick to say that it can't be things that it probably is. Because my theory at the time was there were two things going on in my life. When my ear started to ring, I wasn't doing anything noisy. I was at a desk just like this, typing a report. But I was driving a lot. It was January, though, so I wasn't driving with the window down at that point. But in the summer when I was driving, because for my work, I drove a lot. I drive with the windows down, and it can be loud on the highway. But it was the wintertime, so I wasn't doing that. So it probably wasn't that. But I went to the gym all the time, and I did wear earbuds. I think it probably was the earbuds, even though it didn't happen in the moment. But he said, no, it's impossible that it could be that. And I thought, why is he
No, I agree. I
so
agree. It
sure
is
that
there,
it's
but
impossible that it could be the earbuds? And it's just like when I was younger. The first time I got a pimple, my mom was all worried because my sister had bad acne, but my sister always ate like shit. So I remember she took me to
yeah,
a dermatologist, and I asked the dermatologist, I said, does eating candy and sugar cause acne? He goes, oh, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
yep,
Man, it has everything to do
yep,
with that. It has everything to do with that. These doctors, either they don't know or they're trained to lie to you about the truth.
yeah,
I know you've been ranting against veganism, but here's something I can attest to that's good about veganism. You want really nice, beautiful skin? Go vegan. Your skin will be perfect. And actually, some people think being vegan means eating Cheetos every day. That's not being vegan. Like eating a healthy plant-based diet, like clean vegetables, your skin will become flawless. People used to always say, like, man, how's your skin look like that? And I say, it's from eating this plant-based diet. But nobody wanted to hear that either, because nobody wanted to even try that out. But man, again, our medical system is just a complete joke, and that's all. And I'll tell you, my sister's now divorced, but her husband, he was a doctor, and he used to make fun of the way I ate. And it's funny, he ended up eating the way I did after he went through all these health problems. And I knew better than him when I was a teenager. So anyway, go ahead.
The same thing happened when I went to the hospital for a kidney stone. And I didn't know really anything about kidney stones. I thought it only hurt when you pee. I was completely ignorant. And I was, I was just glad it wasn't some serious, something, like deadly or no shit like that. But because I was in a lot of fucking pain, I thought I was dying. But then I asked them, like after they put the morphine on me and shit like that, I asked them, like, is there anything that I could have done to contribute to me having a kidney stone? Because he was telling me, he was like, well, you're probably gonna have another one because 50% of people that do have the kidney stone have a reoccurrence. And so I asked him, like, well, is there anything I can do to stop it from happening? He was like, nah, you're probably just gonna have another one no matter what you do. So I was hell bent on doing research about how to stop another kidney stone from happening. And the first immediate thing I learned just from doing the first Google search of foods that lead to kidney stones, the number one foods that Google brought up was foods that were high in added salt and added sugar.
Yeah.
And of course, those were all the foods that I was eating right before. In the following months, I was a fucking complete sugar addict. I was definitely eating over 100 grams of sugar. And I started to go back and look back at everything that I was eating. Because I used to go to this shop across my job, and I used to just I was depressed. Like I was going through a depression, like, and I was trying to eat my way out of a depression. I couldn't see my family. And it stemmed from the pandemic, and how many people were like that? How many people were like that where they got more addicted to drugs? They fell back into drugs and you know what I'm saying, and shit like that because they couldn't see their family. I couldn't see my family. This shit happened. The pandemic, the lockdowns happened right before my 18th birthday. It was right before my birthday. I had all this stuff planned. My 18th birthday, all this stuff planned for fucking going to college. But then literally my entire fucking life changed. My entire fucking life derailed. I got fired, laid off my job, all this shit. And then it was like at the time, it's like the people I was living with, I don't want to put no shame on them, but it's like they were kind of blaming me for sitting in the house all day. And it was just like, well, I got laid off my job. What the fuck am I supposed to do? And it just created more of like it just created a more stressful environment for me not even just be able to walk outside the fucking house. I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school. Prom got fucking canceled because of that shit. Couldn't go see my friends and shit like that. Everything just literally it became shit. Like, and it was like, and I began to feed more and more into my addictions and everything. And me not being able to see my mom and my sister still at in 2022. And I was going through shit with like I was going through all kinds of stuff with people and stuff like that, and I love hard. So when the relationships would get fucked up and shit like that, I would turn to drugs. I would turn to weed. I was after the kidney stone. I was I was popping opiates for a while. They prescribed Vicodin and Percocets and stuff like that. And my mom had to take the Percocet so that I wouldn't keep taking them and shit. And I had my brushing with that shit, But the point I'm trying to make is that the reason people even become addicted to a lot of this stuff is because they don't have the things that bring true happiness. They don't have connections with people. They don't have reliable connections with people. They don't have a family. They don't have a partner. They're trying to numb and essentially pacify themselves by giving themselves all this shit, but it's just a false sense of joy. And that's what I was doing. And I was just going back to my point. I went back and researched the nutrition label of the cookies and the brownies I was eating, and there was like 30 grams of cookies. There are 30 grams of sugar in each cookie, and I was eating like 5 of them a day. Yep. I was like, oh my god, 30 times 5, that's 150 grams of sugar. And then I also wasn't even drinking water like that. I was like, no wonder I got a fucking kidney stone. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? And you got
Yeah.
this fucking doctor who's telling me, oh, there's nothing you could have done. You're probably gonna develop another one. Oh, at least 50% of people that have a kidney stone develop another one. Then I'm going back to work, and other employees are telling me, yeah, I've had a kidney stone too, but they're still drinking soda, still eating out. I've had multiple kidney stones. That's why your dumb ass is still getting kidney stones, because you're still eating shit. You're still eating sugary shit, man. Like, and I stopped eating that shit. I'm like, I'm not gonna get a fucking another kidney stone. And I was able to. It does look like I was able to pass the ones that I did have, because I ended up developing more, because I started eating other foods that were like high oxalates and stuff like that. So I had to be careful of that. But again, I had to, I was drinking a lot. I started drinking more and more water and stuff like that. But the point I'm making is that, people will be like, "Oh, you're not a doctor," but a lot of these doctors, they can't tell you anything about nutrition. Most of them can't. The vast majority can. 99%
Not
of them
part of
can't.
their education.
Yeah,
It's like they learn
most
lines.
doctors
They
have less
learn
than
lines.
one
They,
day
they learned. They learned that.
of
That's what
nutrition.
they learned. They learned that diet doesn't have an impact on these things. So they
Yeah,
think that must be the truth.
yeah, exactly. And it's just all ridiculous. And anybody that wants to come in and appeal to authority, I can link you 5 actual doctors, right, that do say the same thing that I'm saying, that I have learned a lot of good information from. If you want to go that route, I can link to you doctors that at least 3 different doctors. No, five, yeah, 5 different doctors. I can link to you 5 doctors that cut the bullshit and will tell you the same shit that I'm saying. So it's not about the doctor. It's not about the doctor. It's about the person. It's about the person that has genuine, again, that has done actual research in that genuine wants to fucking help people. So again, it's just people are looking into it for an excuse to stay addicted. A lot of, like the girl in the video, a lot of people, they get triggered, they get upset because they don't want to admit that they're addicted. They want to stay junkies, and that's what the food does. It leaves you leaving an excuse for wanting to keep eating and shit. I became addicted to, and it leads to other problems. I became addicted to pills for a short while because of that whole hospital shit. And of course I talked about it on my YouTube channel when after it happened. I started craving the morphine that they were giving me in the hospital. And I left the hospital. I had literal insomnia when I came back from the hospital, because I couldn't go to sleep, because every night I was in the hospital, I had morphine in my system for the painkilling, and I felt like I was in heaven, fucking heaven. I had never slept that good before in my life, and still to this day, I have never had sleep that is that peaceful and beautiful in my life. And I was like, this is like, I see why people get addicted to this shit. This is crazy. And then I came back from the hospital. Well, of course, I didn't have the morphine, and I could not go to fucking sleep. I was up late craving the shit, craving the fucking opiate shit. And then, I remember after I came back from the hospital, like I said, people looking for an excuse because they get addicted. I got so annoyed at my dad because my they did the what was it? What the fuck was it, man? They did it had to do with it was something. It had to do with the stent. They gave me Vicodin to take back home in the hospital. Vicodin and Percocets. And I was about to take the Vicodin because my back was sore from like the surgery that they gave me. It related to the kidney stone. And I was like, well, I'm in pain, so I'm gonna pop some more Vicodin for the painkilling, because my fucking back wasn't hurting that bad. I just wanted an excuse to pop the shit. And my dad was like, nah, you don't need to take that, because you just need to wait for the soreness to go away. It's not like the kidney stone pain where you have to take, you gotta wait for the soreness to go away. And I was so irritated at him because I was searching for an excuse to pop those pills again, because I was so fucking addicted. And unfortunately, I was popping, those pills when I would go to work. And I had a crazy high story being high off of Vicodin while I was off work. It was insane, man. Those days were insane. It was completely fucking crazy. But it's like people think that I'm just like perfect, and I'm like, I'm not. I have been through so much shit. I have put myself through so much shit. I've had so many different addictions. I've struggled with so much fucking shit. That's why I'm getting up on here and making the
It's
videos
all
I make, because
dominoes,
I
though,
don't
right?
want to be.
It's
You said
all
what?
dominoes, though, when you really think
Yeah,
about it. Because
exactly.
you didn't get a proper education when you were younger in slave school. They didn't teach you anything about nutrition that mattered. All these problems dominoed into bigger problems.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's why they keep us stupid, because then we're just so easily used and abused. You know?
Exactly.
And
That's
it's
why they wanted to
frustrating.
stay like this.
It's frustrating. I only had one of my nephews. He'd snuck around. He'd figure out a way not to get the jab, but then his dad found out, and his dad told him if he doesn't get all the vaccines and boosters, he's cutting off all his payments right now because he's helping him get through college and stuff. So now, and it just makes me mad. It's like he's a
That's what
doctor, right? So he
similar to
believes
what my
so much in
dad
the
said to
system,
me.
but he's been going through this cancer battle now too.
Yeah.
He's in the middle of a year and a half into a cancer battle. It's like, you don't think this came? It's just like
And yo,
indoctrination
and he got
crazy.
the shoulder tap
Yeah, no,
because his
he
dad
works
made
in
him
the
do it.
medical industry, so he had to get it, and now he's
Mm.
been dealing with
Yeah.
cancer, and now he found out one of his sons snuck around it, and now he made him go out and get all the shots. And it's just
Yeah.
like I don't know what's wrong with people, man. It's like you
Yeah.
don't realize all these people around, all this weird stuff going on. There's women dropping dead from heart attacks now, younger
Yeah, all
kids.
these young people
Everyone's
is
got turbo cancer.
yeah. Yeah.
You can't figure out what changed. It makes me so annoyed. Has nobody looked up the true fact that Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline, which merged right before the pandemic, are the two most sued companies in the history of the world for wrongful death and injury?
Yeah.
Why would you want anything from those companies? Those are the most
Exactly.
corrupt medical companies out there, and they're the ones that the governments were pushing
The
the
first
most.
choice. It's just like
John Legend, hey
you
guys, John
can't
Legend
even
got
do
it.
it.
Don't you like John Legend? He told you to go get it. You can't. I just see all the dummies just walk around like, oh well, the celebrity's doing it, and my doctor. It's just like everyone
Yeah.
should know at this day and age what's legitimate and what's not, and the authority is not legitimate. That should be
Yeah, they proved
abundantly
it.
clear to everybody.
Shows you.
And really, I guess the only way you really figure it out is if you go against it and you challenge it and you do your homework
Yeah.
and you live a life and you figure out that you are right.
Yeah. And you have to be strong. This shit ain't for the weak, because again, it did cause a big depression in me when I saw everybody, treating me like I was crazy for pointing out very obvious things. I mean, I remember when Chadwick Boseman died, like it was yesterday. I'm never gonna forget this shit, because and I was pointing this shit out to everybody. I was like, you guys don't think it's weird that Chadwick Boseman just died today on Jackie Robinson Day, and he played Jackie Robinson?
You know what the
And
problem is, though?
yeah,
People are
it's
going to
just
go back in the future and they're not going to realize he died on Jackie Robinson Day because it
yeah,
was the makeshift Jackie Robinson Day for that
yeah, exactly.
COVID season.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out to people. I'm like, they had any other day to push it back to, but they pushed it back to, to Jack Kirby's birthday, who
Well,
was
Black
responsible
Panther.
for the Black Panther superhero. I'm just like, come on, man. Like
That's the
it's
problem.
just
Jay, the problem is also with you and
it's like,
me
what the
is we have
fuck,
more
man?
brain cells in our head. It's just like the guy I was talking to today. If I would say that to him, he'd think about it for a second and be like, he'd come back with something like, you can go down rabbit holes all day. It's like, dude,
And their response to me was,
I hate all these terms that everybody uses. Like, I
yeah,
don't say rabbit holes. No, this is a
yeah,
fact. They moved Jackie Robinson Day to Jack Kirby's birthday.
exactly.
Well, Black Panther, not to mention Jackie Robinson, if you look it up, was in a tank brigade called the
Yeah,
Black Panthers.
exactly, called the Black
actor who's in
Panthers.
both movies just happens to drop dead
Yeah,
that day, and he
yeah,
actually really dropped dead at 42. That's not weird to you?
yeah. And then it changes
But
a
you
day
just
to
see
birth.
these
They're
dumb
like,
hippies go look, and then they have like they're looking for a response. I don't like to go down rabbit holes.
yeah,
It's like,
they're like, people were
what
telling
can I
me,
say about a
what
rabbit
reason
hole?
would they have to assassinate Chadwick Boseman? I'm like,
These are the
bro,
same people that are
it's
like, I
just
just went to my doctor and he said it's fine if I eat Oreos all day.
exactly, yeah, because that's a healthy relationship with food. You don't want to restrict yourself. Just like people are again, they just appeal to this bullshit every fucking day, every fucking day. You can't get these people to question anything. Well, I was the Pentagon destroyed on the anniversary of construction beginning for it. It's just like that doesn't seem weird to you. Then they call it the new Pearl Harbor, September 11th, 1941, the year of the original Pearl Harbor. They start constructing the Pentagon, then it gets destroyed on the anniversary in an attack that they call the new Pearl Harbor. And it's like, and then the movie Pearl Harbor dropped that same it dropped.
It
It
came out
dropped that year.
110 days before 9/11.
Yeah,
The
110
World Trade
days
Centers were
too.
110 stories. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like what the fuck, like, and it got destroyed on the 60th anniversary and Pearl Harbor equals 60 in Gematria. I'm just like, you don't think that's weird? I'm like, no, it's just you can find a connection to anything. That's what people were telling me, and I'm like, does
I
that
know,
seem like a
man.
connection to anything though? It got destroyed on the anniversary. What kind of shit is that? That
I
tells you
know.
that people
It's
are
just
ritualistic.
the low IQs, man. They all have the same stupid responses, and you just see they're like wind-up toys. They're like program robots. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. You've been getting too much of that programming. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
something else.
my phone is about to die, so I'm finna head out.
All right,
Yeah,
Jay. You have a good rest
yeah.
of your night.
All right, appreciate it. You too.
Take care. All right, I got to wrap this thing up pretty soon too, because Sweet Lady's gonna be coming through the door. But if anybody wanted to come on and talk about the topics tonight, I started with just like how people have vices and they might abuse their vices and it might cause problems in their life and they know it's wrong, but they just can't kick it because addiction's a real thing. I was talking about how there's a good man in this community and he has a serious alcohol problem, and I understand why he's frustrated with the world, but again, understand all these things that most of us are addicted to, they were put out here as traps for us to fall into. And if you can understand that, that might help provide the motivation to get out of the trap or stop falling into it. So, anyhow, I dropped a link. Yeah, smoking weed isn't the worst vice. I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to smoke weed again. I'm going to try real hard not to. I told Sweet Lady I wouldn't smoke anymore, but I mean, I spent a lot of my teenage years up until the last day of being 40 smoking weed almost every day. All right, we got our friend in the room. What's up, man?
Hey, shalom, Zach. How you
Thank
doing,
you for
brother?
coming on.
Hey, I have to admit, I think I have like some kind of ADD or something like that.
Okay.
Because I was supposed to send you my book a couple of weeks ago, but it hasn't slipped my mind. I've just studied so much like you have. I respect you to the utmost. I imagine myself hanging out with you, like we're eating fish and chips.
Okay.
Somewhere just, on the side, away from all this. Um, I'm like that brother that's living homeless in Texas that you spoke with maybe about 2 months ago.
Okay.
You have an impeccable memory. That's why I knew that I could say that and that it would be received. I'm not advertising, but I have had a little bit. It's my Friday.
I get it.
And man, I appreciate you. When I got up on the StreamYard, you were just talking about topics
Hold on, friend. Pause for 1 second, just because Sweet Lady's calling me. I'm gonna come right back. Sit
All right,
tight. I'll be right back, everybody. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm ready to go.
Hey, shalom, Zach, and Mazel Tov, everyone, to life and free thinkers,
Indeed.
critical thinkers. Shalom, Mazel Tov.
If I had one, I'd do it with you. I'm all out of fluid over here.
Hey, Zach, I'm telling you, man, we would be homies. But okay, so what are the topics a few? Just name like two of the topics so I can attach to it, because
the main topics were just vices, and if you know you're abusing them, finding the motivation to get over it, and then just talking about how a lot of people reject knowledge, and that's why we're getting destroyed.
That's dope. So on the topic of vices, I've studied Aristotle's 10 virtues and vices. Aristotle specifically has 10 virtues and vices. And anyone that's listening in the sound of my voice and the sound of Zach's voice, please look up Aristotle's 10 virtues and vices. That's important. Yeah. And it's in line with Kabbalah because it deals with 10 and you have the 10 Sephirot. However, I've added an 11th one. I don't have my notes in front of me, but at least, the 10 virtues and vices is enough for people to eat. There's a lot of old English words associated with the 10 virtues and vices that'll have people going and looking up the definition so then they can have clarity on what Aristotle was transmitting. And this is the last thing I would like to say, just based on that, just to hear your response, Zach, because I love to hear your voice. I love to hear you talk. I can listen to you talk for hours and hours and hours, man. Even if you may think you're repeating yourself, it's necessary. Repetition is important. But so far as the 10 virtues and vices, man, I was about to make a connection. Okay, and then Kabbalah. You got the 10 Sephirot, but there's a hidden one, which is the 11th one. And this may be completely significant. It's not like everybody's going to be like, yeah. I know what the 11th Sephirot means on the tree of life. However, when you look at how prevalent that Hebrew word is, not you, Zach, specifically, but people are going to be eating their hats because that one that's hidden, it's Dayat. Dayat, which sounds like Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi.
Or diet, period.
Is a Hebrew word, and that Hebrew word means discernment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's, the good diet people are looking for is good discernment. And it can only happen through the tree of life. I've studied Kabbalah since 2012. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is this tree of life? What are all these Hebrew words? I don't know any of this stuff. And when I send you my work, because I was going to send you my book, but I'm like, he doesn't have time to read the book. So let me figure out something else that I can send him that you can automatically understand where I'm coming from, why I started working. Just like you read something and you said, dang, other people haven't really read this. I said the same thing when I finally read the Bible starting in 2013 and then 2014. I was like, okay, let me start taking notes because I had a lot of things to say about Christians, about how ignorant they were, about how illiterate they were. I had a lot of judgments, but I held back my judgment because I realized and recognized that these people are raising children, so they don't have time to look in legal dictionaries like Black's Law Dictionary, from the 6th edition, 4th edition, 3rd edition, 1st edition. Black's Law Dictionary, which has legal definitions for terms and words that we use every day, but we do not know the etymology of these words. And etymology is important for this particular consideration in the realm of grammar, is that any word that you use today that's supposed to have some weight inside of my mind has a cognate. 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 It has a cognate, which means that whatever word that you just spoke came from an earlier source. And then this Bible phrase, there's nothing new under the sun, beloveds. There's nothing new under the sun. So if somebody's saying a word to you, it has a cognate. And that's a consideration in the realm of grammar. Okay, so I'm going to say this and then I'm going to wait for your response, Brother Zach, because you listen so attentively. And I love this because I knew this would happen. We could do this in private too. So cognate. When someone is so-called speaking in tongues, Shabada Sheke, Shabaka Yada, what the fuck are you talking about? First and foremost, excuse my language. What are you talking about? Number one. Number two, The prophet Paul said, if you're going to speak in tongues, you're supposed to have an interpreter. So where's your interpreter at when you're speaking in tongues? Pause. So we're using the word tongues. Tongues has a definition in Greek, and tongues also has a word definition in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the word is lesson. So when you get a lesson, you're speaking in tongues. Okay, and then in Greek, it's glossary. That's not actually correct, Zach, but I'm just doing this because it's expedient. So, so in the Greek, when you see the word tongues, it's glossary. So if you know what a lesson is, and if you know what a glossary is, or maybe I should do it in German. If you know what a lesson is, and you know what a glossary is, then you can speak in tongues. So everything else that everybody is doing is absolute babble. And yeah, I rest my case.
Very interesting. You know, I'm loving this conversation. You got to come on my live streams more often and just talk about whatever's on your mind. I've always said if I went back to college, that's what I would study now. I would have studied language and the meaning of words and linguistics, because I mean, it's amazing how all of this exists and almost nobody has a clue about any of it.
Exactly. Now, this is the absolute definition of propaganda, because propaganda will have people one-sided. However, in the government, you're two-sided. Pause. There's a concept called logical fallacy. And the idea is that if anybody is presenting you with only two choices, wait, let me do it in German. If people are presenting you with two choices, 1, 2, that's it. Logical fallacy says that there are more than two choices. And the arguer is attempting to, you know, minimize you and bring you to, oh, there's only two choices.
Put you in
Democrat, Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. And shut your mouth. I left the Democratic Party in 2009. And this is certified, Zach, because I started working with the Oath Keepers back in 2009. I left the Democrat Party. So everything that's going on in politics right now, I'm looking at people the same way you are. Like, man, y'all didn't get it. You're so emotional. Oh, you haven't reined in your emotions? I know why. And I'm not saying that to be degrading. I'm saying that because I've been inventing methods to remedy. I've been inventing methods to remedy my people and all people from this propaganda, which has you thinking one way. Because that's the goal of propaganda, is to have you single-minded. When I did elaborate a little bit, but I know I didn't talk too much, dealing with logical fallacy, which has you double-minded. Oh, let me do it in German. That has you double-minded, but it's not just double-minded. You need to be triple, quadruple, cinquental, sexquental. I just made that up. I don't know if that's actually right, but yeah, you need to be multi-dimensional.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what people. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, mind control, it's a real thing. I remember when the pandemic was going on, they were running nonstop ads about how if you weren't compliant with everything the authorities were saying, you were a danger to society. And then you had a lot of people regurgitating that exact same back. You haven't got, oh my God, you could be killing an elderly person. I'm like, I've been healthy the whole time.
Hey, Zach, those are shame tactics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You might not believe it, but just yesterday, I read the Communist Manifesto by Marx and Engels. Yesterday, for the first time in my life, and I did it through audiobook. And I would like to be a public service announcement to everybody that can hear my voice. You can listen to an audio book on YouTube, and that's considered a reading of that book, just so you have confidence. Yes. When you listen to an audiobook on YouTube, any book, doesn't matter what it is, it could be Agatha Christie to Sir Francis Bacon. And when you listen to that audiobook, that is a reading. Yeah. Even if you didn't understand everything, it doesn't matter, because you might not have been taking notes and wrote down words that you didn't understand or comprehend or understand when you heard them. So you might not have been taking notes. However, when you read the book again, aka listen to the audiobook, you'll gain the intellect, and that's considered a reading of a book.
Absolutely. For some people, it might be more effective too. Some people are auditory learners. Sometimes it's easier for me to listen to an audiobook and absorb the information, because when I read, I have to really focus my mind, because when I read a sentence, the way my mind works, sometimes it'll trigger a thought, and then I'll really want to be thinking about that, but I'll keep reading. I'll be like, oh my God, I read the whole page, and I don't even know what I just read because I got all stuck on this thought on the sentence up here. So for whatever reason, for me, when I listen to an audiobook, I'm kind of just following along, and it's actually sinking in better usually. So for some people, it is better.
Yeah. No, for me, my personal, I'm not going to berate this too much because I want to press on and move on, because you are one. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do. And associating myself with that young man in Texas who he saw everything. He's like, man, F all this. Like, this is all BS, you know. I'm in my 47th year.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is important. What I've been studying and things like that. So with that being said, damn, I forgot what I was saying. I got emotional because I have an affection for you. I appreciate you. I'm on the Patreon. I'm doing the $10 a month. I need to do the $11 a month so I can, get more access, because maybe I'm a little retarded. But okay, Zach, you remember what I was saying? Can you bring me back to where I was, please?
Well, for a minute, we were talking about Aristotle and his 10 virtues and vices. And then we've talked about a lot of things, but then we were getting into, listening to audiobooks to take in information. And then I kind of had my input about how I like audiobooks. I tend to prefer taking in books that way. And that's about where we were.
Okay, yeah. And wherever I was, I'm glad you brought me back here. I've read the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary through audiobooks. I didn't have the text in front of me. And to add to that, I've also listened to different versions of the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary. And out of all the books that were taken out of the Bible, those are so important, as well as the Enoch, the book of Enoch. Mm-hmm. And I would like to reveal to everybody that can hear my voice that I was raised Muslim in California. My dad, he got raised in 1966 in Oakland, and then somehow met my mom in Santa Barbara, but blah, blah, blah. And I grew up in Oxnard, California as a Muslim. We didn't wear shoes in the house. I did do Shahada, when I was younger, but at some point my dad was like, hey, we're going to move away from the church, but we still kept on some of the traditions. And so with that being said, years later, when I finally read the Bible for the first time in my life in 2013, and I have a pastor, which is my ex-wife's mother, who gave me a concordance for the first time. I was like, what is this? I opened it up and it looked like an index. And she said, oh, this is a concordance. And I said, wow, a concordance? Okay. And I'm reading through this thing. And Zach, you have said many times that someone who has gone into the Bible and has gone into the numbers within the words. But there's also beyond the numbers that are the words, there's the numbers that are in the concordance. And I would like to give you something as the initial submission to you. There's a Strong's number, G846, G846.
Okay.
I don't know what it means in Gematria, but I know what it means in the concordance. And in the concordance, that's the word auto, A-U-T-O, but it's actually autos, and that's in Greek. I don't speak Greek, but I've played Grand Theft Auto. I've driven a car that has an automatic transmission, and I know that I have an autonomic nervous system.
Sure.
So, and that's what I learned in college. I learned in college that we have an autonomic nervous system. So what is the auto in G846? I know exactly what it is, but yeah, I'm just putting that out there.
Well, I'd like to hear the rest of that thought.
All right, okay, here we go. So G846 in the Strong's Concordance. The Strong's Concordance I have is, I think it was published in the 1990s. However, you can go onto the internet, whatever browser you have, go to the Blue Letter Bible, because the blueletterbible.com, I don't know if it's .com, but yeah, it has not only definitions, but it uses lexicons, which are older sources, older than dictionaries. Lexicons are older than dictionaries. And the word lex, it's Greek. There's no way to deny it. And to give credibility to the Greek language, the Mayan language is also, there's large parts of the Mayan language that are Greek. So it's important. And we already know a lot of Greek. If somebody's going to get some medication, they're going to the pharmakia, which is a Greek word. There's a lot of English words that are Greek. I don't want to berate that. I don't want to go into it too much. But let's go back to the concordance, the Strong's Concordance, G, and this is a letter, because if the words are in the New Testament, they're Greek, so it'll have a G number. And then if the words are in Hebrew, it'll have an H and then a number in the Old Testament. And I specifically like to deal with the 1611 King James. We can deal with the NIV at some point in the future, but that's not my source. Even though the NIV has margin notes from the 70, there's a name for those 70 scholars that were allowed to add the margin notes to the NIV Bible, which was published in the 1970s.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a relatively new document, the NIV. That's why I love to go back to the 1611, because that's Old English.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I even read the Geneva Bible from the 1550s, because that's even greater source, and that's really older English, and a lot of people don't understand it or comprehend it, or for some reason they can't get it. But let's go back to G, which is Greek, G846, because that's the word for auto. Now, that word auto is unisex for all intents and purposes. When it says him, it's also her and herself simultaneously. And Zach, to really figure out the significance of G846, you would have to read the Gospel of Thomas, verse 114. Yeah, okay. And you can Google search it, Gospel of Thomas, verse 114. I can recite it, but it'd be better if you could see it, and I'll still recite it.
Is this the right one? Is this the right verse up here? Simon Peter said to him, "Let Mary leave us, for women are not worthy of life." Is that right? Jesus said, I myself shall lead her in order to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit resembling you males. For every woman who will make herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven.
Hey, so Jesus is trying to make transsexuals, huh? No, it's not. The proof is in G 846, because him equals her, himself equals herself in the word auto.
So they're synonymous.
Yes. So, yeah, so everyone with ovaries and a vagina, when you see him, it's talking to you. Don't let anyone tell you any different. That's called the mind F. Yeah, that's the mind F. And that's what I figured out through my so-called 47th, 46th year of studying, even Freemasonry. I've read Albert Pike's, Morals and Dogma. I carry it around with me every day. Morals and Dogma. It's with me every day.
Having this conversation reminds me of something that I actually forgot. It was probably about 2014 that it happened. It was just funny the whole way it was. I was doing laundry and I wasn't anticipating going anywhere until the clothes finished in the dryer. I was literally out of pants and shorts. So I was in my house in my shirt and my boxers. And there was a knock on the door. And, I kind of answered the door, like not trying to show that I'm in my boxer shorts. I'm like, who's answering the door in their boxers? But it was a dude. He showed up at my door, and I don't even know how he found my address. But he was following me online, and somehow he figured out where I live. And he wanted to come tell me that he was studying Greek, and he was learning that the New Testament, unless you know Greek, you can't really know the New Testament because there's so many things that are not translated properly. And they have words and concepts in their language that don't exist within English, so there's no real way to translate it. So again, for all of you guys who read the Bible and believe so much in this book, you have to understand there's so many things that you don't really understand because of the mistranslations and the things lost in that phrase, lost in translation. But this guy just wanted to come to my house in the funniest time when I didn't have any clothes on to wear and just share this message with me. Because he'd heard me talking about why I grew up in the church, but I have questions. I still abide by the golden rule, but I think too many people are caught up in the whole religion. Again, if you really want to be about it, for all you Christians out there, you really should go learn how to speak Greek, because what our friend here is sharing tonight, I mean, it's absolutely true. And it's just reminding me how this happened. And I'd forgotten that moment in my mind, but that was over 10 years ago now, but it did happen. So.
Yeah. They say the scriptures is a living document. So based on that impetus, Greek is a living language, meaning that we can still use it. Now, in the courts, they say that Latin is a dead language. However, it's brought to life when it's used. Something like quid pro quo, which is Latin. However, it's used by all politicians. Quid pro quo, meaning that something for something else. And something that you do, Zach, which is a Latin phrase. I don't speak Latin. I just know a few phrases because I studied in the Moorish Science Temple of America, although I was never attached to a temple or anything like that. But I still studied Noble Drew Ali, and I studied the Moorish Science Temple of America as a archaeologist, as a political scientist. Like, what is this thing? What is this book that was published, the Circle 7 Quran, that was published in 1927, or excuse me, 1927. Yeah, my bad. It sounded weird, but yeah, 1927. The Circle 7 Quran was produced, and that contains the life of Jesus from age 12 to 30. Yeah, the Circle 7 Quran, and there's a gentleman that did his due diligence, and he produced an audiobook. He's reading the Circle 7 Quran, and you can listen to it for a couple hours. And there's some things about where Jesus traveled to that a lot of Christians never even imagined. that Jesus traveled to India and he studied under the Brahmins. Yeah, Jesus studied under the Brahmins. He's at the lowest level. When they received him, they were like, Rabboni, what are you doing here? And he explained to them, he's like, hey, you know what? I want to find out where my people are at and where they suffer. So that's why Jesus was willing to enter into Buddhism and studied Buddhism. So you think you know Jesus Christ, you don't, you love Jesus, I love Jesus, but you love Jesus because Jesus studied Buddhism.
Hey, you know what? I got to get it off because Sweet Lady got here, but I love where we just came to at the end of this. You got to start coming on here all the time. I love a lot of people in this community, but I think you're my new favorite guest, man. You're just dropping knowledge left and right. For a book to recommend to everybody, it's somewhere back on that shelf. I don't want to take the time. Actually, I see
it. Man.
This book right here, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. It's about Buddhism too. And I think everybody should read this book right here. He learns 3 simple things to help him persevere in life. And one of those 3 things is fasting, by the way. But I always resonate when I started searching for answers in my younger years. This is one of the books I came across. I loved everything about this book. If you never read Siddhartha, you should read it. But yeah, I think Buddhism, there's just so much about Buddhism that makes so much sense. And see, isn't it funny? That's why I tell you, because there's a lot of Christians in the world who think everything that's not Christianity is evil. And then what have you found out? That the missing book was, whoa, the guy who you worship, he studied under Buddhism too. And that wouldn't even surprise me at all. That would just make so much sense. I'd say, well, that just makes perfect sense to me. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. So anyway, friend, I do got to get off the Sweet Ladies here, but I really appreciate the call, and you enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, brother, for having me. Yes, Jesus studied Buddhism, and that's why we love him. Because there's a Brahma, and then at the bottom there's Atman. Mm-hmm. But you know about Batman, and that is the mind F. Because you don't know Atman, but you know about Batman. But if you really know Batman, Batman is Atman. Okay, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And I'll definitely come up again.
I look forward to the next time. You have a good night, friend.
Thank you, brother. Shalom, shalom.
Same to you. Take care. All right, great guest. Thank you as well for coming on, Jay. And we'll do another stream sometime soon. Again, shout out to Open Up, who was generous again once again tonight, who also shared some information about origins of the word alcohol. I think we should do this a lot more often, just focus on the origins of words and just share whatever discoveries we make, because there are probably infinite discoveries to be made. And yeah, the source of language, very enlightening. So we'll leave it there for now. Thank you to everyone who hit the like and the share. If you're new here, you might want to hit the sub button, maybe not, up to you. But until next time, have a good night, everybody.